Urban legends, they're just campfire stories, right? Fabricated tales meant to thrill, scare, or warn. But what if these stories had roots in something real? Tonight, we're diving into the most chilling urban legends from around the world. And trust me, you won't look at your own town the same way again. It was a stormy night, and Jake was driving down an old country road after visiting a friend. The rain lashed against his windshield, making it nearly impossible to see. As he rounded a bend, he spotted a figure on the roadside. A woman, soaked to the bone, her white dress clinging to her. She raised a trembling hand, signaling for help. Jake hesitated but eventually stopped. She climbed into the car silently, offering a weak smile. Her voice was barely above a whisper as she gave him an address. As they drove, Jake tried to make conversation, but she only responded with brief, cryptic phrases. When they reached the address, it was an old, decrepit house. The windows were shattered, and the yard was overgrown. Jake turned to the passenger seat, only to find it empty. Panic set in as he searched the area, his calls echoing into the storm. The next day, Jake told a local about his experience. The man paled and explained that a young woman matching the description had died in a car crash years ago, right on that road. Her name was carved on a tombstone in the nearby cemetery. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, a group of teens dared Emma to perform the infamous Bloody Mary ritual. Nervous but eager to prove her bravery, she stood in the bathroom with the lights off, clutching a candle. Emma closed her eyes and repeated the words, "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary." The air grew cold, and the candle flickered violently. When she opened her eyes, the reflection was no longer hers. Terrified, Emma screamed and ran out, but her friends laughed, thinking it was a prank. That night, as she lay in bed, Emma felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She turned, and no one was there. Emma's story became infamous in her town. No one dared to try the ritual again, but whispers of Bloody Mary's vengeance lingered in the school halls for years. It was a quiet Friday night when Lisa, a young babysitter, settled in to watch TV after putting the kids to bed. The phone rang. A deep voice asked, "Have you checked the children?" Thinking it was a prank, Lisa hung up. The calls continued, each more menacing than the last. Lisa finally called the police, who traced the call. The officer's voice trembled as he said, "The call is coming from inside the house." Lisa bolted upstairs to find the children unharmed, but their window was wide open, and the curtains billowed in the wind. Before she could react, the sound of footsteps approached from behind. Lisa and the children were saved just in time, but the intruder was never caught. The house was left abandoned, and years later, neighbors still report seeing shadows moving in the windows at night. Sarah and her friends decided to spend a night at a cheap hostel during a road trip. The place was old, with wooden walls creaking under the weight of the wind. Inside the room, a strange message was etched on the bathroom mirror. "Do not open the door if you hear 3 knocks." In the middle of the night, Sarah woke up to 3 slow knocks at the door. Terrified, she didn't open it, but saw a bloody handprint appear on the inside of the window, even though it was firmly shut. At breakfast, the receptionist told them about a guest who vanished years ago, leaving bloodstains in the room. Since then, the legend says the spirit seeks company, but only for those who answer its knocks. Derek loved exploring abandoned places. On a full moon night, he decided to visit an old amusement park outside the city, notorious for unexplained disappearances. In the middle of the park, the carousel still spun slowly, despite being broken for decades. When Derek entered the funhouse, he heard laughter echoing. A reflection of a clown appeared behind him in one of the mirrors, even though no one was there when he turned around. Derek tried to run, but the exit was blocked. A deep voice invited him to play forever. By morning, the park was empty again, but one of the carousel horses now bore Derek's face carved into it. A couple went camping in an isolated forest, known as the place where the trees talk. At night, they began hearing whispers coming from the wind, even though there was no breeze. In the morning, they found strange human footprints around their tent, even though no one had been near. The footprints led to a tree with a grotesque face carved into it, smiling menacingly. As they tried to leave, the forest seemed endless, as if the trees were moving to keep them trapped. In panic, the couple was never seen again. The legend says the trees added 2 new faces to their trunks that night. Jason was home alone when he heard a soft knock on the door. Upon opening it, he found 2 small, pale children wearing old-fashioned clothes, asking to use the phone. Something was wrong with their eyes, they were completely black. Jason tried to close the door, but the children kept insisting, never blinking. The air grew heavier, and the smell of sulfur filled the room. When he refused, the lights began flickering violently. The moment Jason threatened to call the police, the children vanished. Days later, neighbors reported similar encounters, always with the eerie feeling of being watched by something inhuman. It was a moonless night when Liam decided to take the shortcut home, a little-known highway cutting through the mountains. He had heard rumors about it before. Drivers claimed the road stretched endlessly, trapping those who dared take it. But Liam didn't believe in urban legends, and the idea of saving time outweighed his skepticism. At first, the drive seemed normal. The winding road was quiet, with no other cars in sight. But after an hour, Liam noticed something odd. The same mile marker kept appearing. Mile 17, the sign read, even though he'd been driving far longer than that. His stomach churned as he realized he wasn't making any progress. As the hours dragged on, the gas gauge in Liam's car inched toward empty. Panic began to set in. Suddenly, his headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. It was a man wearing a tattered jacket, his face obscured by shadows. Liam swerved to avoid him and skidded to a stop. When he looked in his rearview mirror, the man was gone. Shaken but determined, Liam kept driving. Moments later, the same figure appeared ahead, standing still as a statue. This time, Liam stopped the car and rolled down his window. "Can you help me? I'm stuck," Liam called out. The man's head tilted unnaturally, his voice hollow and slow. "You can't leave. Not until someone takes your place." Desperate, Liam begged for answers. The man explained the curse of the road. It demanded a soul to remain forever, wandering its endless loop. "You took the shortcut. You agreed to the price," the man said, his voice echoing unnaturally. But there was a way out. If Liam could lure someone else to the road, the curse would pass to them. Reluctantly, he agreed. Weeks later, news broke of another driver vanishing on the same highway. Liam, now free, never spoke of the road again. But deep down, he knew his escape came at a terrible cost, and he could never outrun the guilt. Urban legends may be stories, but they remind us of one thing. Fear is universal, and sometimes it's a warning. So, the next time you hear a strange sound or see something that doesn't feel quite right, trust your instincts. Some legends aren't just stories. They're warnings from the past or the present.